R. Kelly is set to be sentenced in May of next year. He's also facing two other cases in Illinois and Minnesota. So joining us now to discuss how this conviction will likely affect R. Kelly's legacy and his future cases is attorney J. Wendell Gordon. Attorney Wendell, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining us, sir. Is it normal to have
my
such
pleasure.
a long stretch between conviction and sentencing?
Well, lately, as a result of COVID, yes. I'm seeing it here in Maryland, and I'm seeing it other places who are dealing with the same situations. I've had some folks have been sitting almost a year waiting on sentencing. So he's not going anywhere even after sentencing. So I don't think there's any real due process issues to be concerned about. The bottom line is he really has met his match, and he's going to be serving a long time.
What do you mean his match?
Well, because he had been getting away with so much skullduggery in the past, and it's finally caught up with him. And evidently, there was a case that was put on that was very, very persuasive to 7 men and 5 women. So the judge is going to have the final say, but I think his sentence is going to be consistent with what the jury found.
So, sir,
and with the testimony that came out of trial.
So, Attorney Gordon, are you basically saying that R. Kelly was already guilty prior to being convicted?
I think in many people's eyes, after the documentary, I think the documentary shaped the court of public opinion. And as a result of the court of public opinion, that shaped, people aren't surprised, put it that way, that he was found guilty today. Now, maybe inside the courtroom, the sentiment may be a little different, but outside of the courtroom, no one is really surprised that this occurred. What we're waiting for is the last shoe to drop, and that will be the sentencing.
Yeah, I mean, you still have his supporters who are unable to separate the man from the music.
I think that R. Kelly ran sort of like a cult-like situation with all of his dealings, and those who love him unconditionally. And we have to make space for them as well. I mean, this is America. You're entitled to your own opinion. So we have to make space for everybody, whether we agree with them, find them totally offensive or not. I mean, that's the American way. But at the end of the day, I think that what's going to happen is that he's going to be sentenced, and he's going to carry a lot of the maximum periods of time. And I don't look to see R. Kelly returning to the streets at least before he's 75 to 80 years old.
Wow. Hold that thought. I want you to listen to some sound from R. Kelly's godson. He spoke about the conviction right after it was handed down, saying that the government did not have enough evidence. Let's take a listen together.
When I heard the verdict, I was just shocked and speechless and motionless. It was found it very hard and strange for a jury to find a man guilty off of he say, she say with lack of evidence. What's even more strange is that the United States government could come forward with these charges off of he say, she say.
How credible were those witnesses for you, sir? Because, I mean, Kelly's attorneys basically called them disgruntled groupies.
That's a bit harsh. However, it doesn't matter how I feel about their credibility. What matters is how the jury felt about it. Doesn't matter what the court of public opinion felt about it. It matters what the jury felt, and the jury found some credibility with their testimony. Whether it's inconsistent or not, the jury can accept some of the testimony, accept all of it, or accept none of it. And apparently, they chose to accept the parts. And they ascribed enough weight to the testimony to support a finding of guilt. And quite frankly, if all they have is that there was inconsistent testimony, that's not going to fare them very well on appeal. There has to be some legal error that was made in the trial. And just complaining that this person was more credible than that person, or this person lacked credibility or believability, that's not going to be enough, because the jury is the ultimate fact finder, and they found that R. Kelly was guilty of the charges. And quite frankly, that's really the end of the story.
Yeah. So how do you think this conviction could impact the other 2 cases that he has?
Well, I just feel enough is enough, perhaps, in my opinion.
You are like, he got his day in court.
Right. I'm a defense lawyer, and I don't think you can absolutely do overkill. I don't really think it's necessary to do another trial. I mean, Maybe he'll go in there and plead guilty, but to put everyone through another R. Kelly trial, right at this point, he's been convicted in federal court. You're not going anywhere, okay, for a very long time in federal court, and and he's gonna serve that sentence first. And who wants him when he's 85 years old? But there is some irony that happens sometimes in these cases, because we saw it in the Bill Cosby case where everybody locked him up and threw away the keys for 10 years and he made his way back home. So maybe there will be something that they can pull out. But as it stands now, I just don't see it if the only arguments they have, and I heard some of the lawyers, was that the witnesses were not credible. That's not going to carry you very far.
All right. So what can we expect, sir? We know sentencing is in May of next year. He also has these other two cases. I know for you, you're done. You don't want to see another R. Kelly trial, but we just
I
may.
don't want to see it. Well, and it's a great possibility that we will, because there's enough vitriol against R. Kelly right now with the guilty verdict behind him to make some prosecutor want to, put that feather in their cap to, as a capstone of their career. But the bottom line is he's a beaten man, and in terms of sentencing, whatever sentence he gets is probably just going to run concurrent with the federal sentence. But at the end of the day, kudos to the U.S. attorneys in this case, but more of the same. I'm not necessarily interested, but that's just me. He's going to jail and he's never coming home. I mean, that's the bottom line.
All right, Attorney J. Wendell Gordon, I got another question for you, sir. What if you were representing R. Kelly?
Me?
Yeah. What if you?
Okay.
What would you have done
What
differently?
would I do differently? I
Yeah.
don't think there's much you can do differently. The only thing you can do in that situation is attack everyone who comes to the stand. You have to do your research. You have to research them, take them back even when they were youngsters, find out what kind of convictions they had, whether or not they lied on any applications, even for credit cards, you know what I mean? Or a mortgage, people, inflate their income, whatever. You just have to dig up dirt. So really, you're just going through the trash and seeing what you can find. And at the end of the day, you're attacking credibility. And although you may be able to point out some inconsistencies and some issues of lack of believability, at the end of the day, if they present enough information to persuade a jury that there's at least this thread of truth in what they're saying, enough to push them over the edge from, more likely so than not to beyond reasonable doubt, I believe that he's guilty, then you've got problems. And so that's what happened in this case. You win some, you lose some. We're just lawyers. We're not magicians. So we can't create a situation. All we can do is work with what we have. And I'm sure those lawyers did a fantastic job based upon what they had to work with.
All right. So do you think we could possibly see an appeal? I believe I heard R. Kelly's lawyers say they plan to appeal this conviction.
We better. I would expect that you would, because that's his right. He has an automatic right to an appeal. And he certainly wants to exhaust all of his legal remedies before, throwing in the towel and say, okay, I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. So, yeah, I would expect an appeal. I would expect a very good appeal. And I expect them to find some really good issues that they objected to or made issues out of in the case that involve legal errors, as opposed to a juror's opinion about the credibility of a witness. So, yeah, I expect to see an appeal. I don't know how successful it'll be. As a defense attorney, I'm willing to keep silent with my opinion and let due course take its course.
All right. So if R. Kelly called you up tonight and said, hey, Attorney J. Wendell Gordon, I need you.
That's what I do. So, yeah, I'm going to do it. That's what I do. So anybody can call me except white supremacists. That's where I draw the line. Racists and white bigots. I don't even like the word supremacists, bigots. But other than that, yeah, I've represented John Allen Muhammad, the DC sniper. So I'll represent anyone, because to me, the case is always bigger than the client. We represent the Constitution. We represent the right to an adequate representation in a fair trial. And so that's what I represent when I represent a person like R. Kelly or any other unpopular figure.